Hello, my name's Chris Pigg and I'm director of Blackpink Printmaking Studios in Frome in Somerset in the UK. And today I'm going to take you through how to use a nipping press. Nipping presses are beautiful things. They're cast iron with brass fittings, made in the 19th century. I get from historians two different uses for them. One was for taking a copy of a letter, which I find really difficult to believe. So basically, once you've written your letter in ink, you then put a thin piece of paper on top of it, chuck it into here, and quickly squeeze to, I don't know, blot it and make a copy, which I find difficult to think. They must have had a better way of doing it than that. But so that's what I'm told. That's one use for nipping press. The other one is it's very useful for bookbinders, for putting that furrow down the edge just before you get to the spine of a book. So they would be put between boards with a little bit of metal down one side and squeezed, left overnight, and then released, and then you've got this little furrow along it. Also, generally for working on books, it's good because you can squeeze them flat. Although bookbinders generally use much larger presses with a much bigger gap here. So this is your classic nipping press. Every studio I've ever been in, here and in Spain and the United States, they've always got one. They're always dusty, left in the corner, and people don't really know what to do with them. They are ideal for relief printing, particularly for wood engraving, which is why I've got two. And sometimes in this studio, can you believe it, actually both of them are in use at the same time. So they're fantastic things. They're pretty, and they do exactly the same as a much more expensive Albion or Colombian press, or a baby Albion, in that they're platen presses. So this is the platen here, and it just goes up and down like that, squashes on the print. Up until recently, they were quite easy to find for 50 quid a go, but they've become fashionable amongst a group of people who think, ooh, that's Victorian and cast iron, that could be worth something, that. Those people then clean the thing too much and make all the brass really, really bright, and then usually varnish it after that, which is absolutely a horrific thing to do. And then remove all this beautiful gold painted embellishment on the top of lacquer, and paint it with hammerite, and then think that they've done something really smart and charge 400 quid for it. If you ever see them for sale, never pay over 200 quid. They're worth about 50 or 60 quid, 70 quid, maybe 100 quid. No more than that. If you're paying more than that, then you're being stung by an opportunist. So do shop around, because they are beautiful things to find, and they'll be your friend for life. If you've got a small studio, then they're ideal. If you're a relief printer, they're just the very thing. Right. I love mine. This one's called Peter Holland. This one's called Spartacus. Spartacus has had a rough life. Spartacus is older than Victorian, I think. I think Spartacus is actually possibly a Georgian press. It's been smashed to bits by some stupid apprentice with a hammer once upon a time. This one, Peter Holland was an engraver. It was a gift from my in-laws, Bill and Sue Riley. Peter Holland was bestie mates with John Farley, who was one of the most illustrious wood engravers of his generation. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to show you how to make this useful, how to make this practical to work for printing wood engravings. First thing you've got to do is make yourself a couple of these, which are boards that fit to the size of the platen and the bed. Okay, MDF, and the top one, the one that goes underneath the platen, has been fronted with, in this case, just ordinary wool felt from an etching blanket. Yeah, this is so that when you press down on the impression, it gives a slight emboss to the surface. It kind of has a bit of give, which is just, I mean, if you're a relief printmaker, you'll know that one of the beauties of relief printing is its slight sculptural element, you know, the fact that it's not planographic. The first thing you've got to do when you've got your lovely new nipping press, new to you anyway, is you've got to build a couple of MDF boards, because if you look here, the platen goes all over the shop, and what these do is they kind of level out that inconsistency in the pressure, so that the whole thing goes down nice and evenly on top of what you're printing. Right, and so today I've got some boards here just to build it up just to the right size, because I'm a professional artist and printmaker, and so I make editions, and you want to make everything as automatic and as smooth as possible, the whole process, yeah? So today we're printing a block that I've recently editioned. This is a 300 or 400 year old boxwood tree that's been cut down, and sadly, because it was left out in the sun, which is something you shouldn't do with box that's just been cut, the splits were quite bad. So originally the trunk was about that big, but this is still quite a hefty chunk for boxwood made from one piece. That's extraordinarily large. Right, so little note on your bed sheet. You have to have one of these so that you can place your block in the right place and then your paper on top in the right place. The more generous the margin, the more the dealer and the collector will get a sense of luxury. This is as thin as it could possibly be. If you have a margin any smaller than that, it will give off a message of cheapness and make do, which you don't want, okay? So I'm just going to quickly ink up this block. I use Van Son rubber-based ink. Nothing is better than that. And today I'm using my faithful old Lawrence rollers. Most of these rollers are Lawrence rollers. It does help. I know if you're just starting out and you're using red-handed gouges and all that sort of thing, it does help if you save up your pennies and get the best that you can afford, because I think it's important for anybody, whatever level of professionalism they're at, to treat their work with respect and to afford the very best that they can and produce prints as professionally as they possibly can, all right? Now, Simon Brett would say, you need to roll out a lump of ink noting in a P. I've gone mad and done a whole big piece here. I'm conscious of the fact I might have been repeating myself from other instructional videos, but it's really important that you hold the press from above like this rather than like this, which is how I did it for 30 years, because you get much more pressure, much better fulcrum if you do it this way. Now, as Simon Brett would say, you should roll out a bed of ink that is barely audible. I love that phrase because it's so absolutely on the money. Because if you've got too much ink, it sounds schlitzy, yeah? Which actually isn't a Yiddish word, but should be. In other words, it makes a noise. You want it to look as thin as possible. That's just absolutely perfect. Don't over ink your block either. 4 passes is plenty. So watch me do it now. 1, 2, 3, 4. Right, now I'm going to put it onto the bed, the registration sheet, and then I'm going to get a piece of paper from over there. Excuse me a moment. Now paper is really important because when you're printing a wood engraving, you've got to be able to see where it's printing, or I like it that way, particularly when I'm using a nipping press, because what happens with a nipping press, I'm just going to put this on top for the moment, is this part just under the screw tends to have less pressure, okay? So you get like a halo of stronger pressure outside of the area where the screw is coming down on it. So normally what I do when I'm editioning a wood engraving is I have this in my pocket all the time. Sometimes I sit on the sofa and it does me a mischief. This thing, which is just an old antler, this to burnish the back of the proofs. You will see what I'm talking about in a moment. I use Sunimi Seneca or Fabriano Beer Prima because they're both very light papers that are machine pressed, so they've got a shiny surface. You want to keep it light and keep it shiny so that it'll take all of the fine detail without bleeding, you know, so that you can have a thin layer of black and so that your blacks are solid and that your whites, that your thin lines remain intact. All right, so now here comes the interesting bit. There you go, that's enough pressure. I mean, it's the thing with platinum presses is you get these great big things like Colombians, beautiful presses, but this, you know, it's a ton and a half of cast iron. This great big machine that just makes one bit of metal go like that. That's all they do. So if you can get it on a smaller level, all to the better. Right, now have a look at this. If you could come in here, please, Stella. You can see here that around the edges it's printed really, really strongly, and that you can't see so much in the middle. So just as a matter of practice, general good practice, I just take the burnisher over the central areas to make sure that I'm getting a nice solid black in those areas, okay? When it comes to materials, they're all, you know, so getting the right paper and the right ink is massively important. Don't bother with water-based ink. That's unless I say that's for amateurs, like I'm turning my nose up at it. I'm not at all. But even if you're not working as a professional, there's no reason why you shouldn't have professional materials and treat it seriously, yeah? So do try and get the best that you can. Right, now here comes the big reveal. This should be perfect, almost. I hope. Yeah, no, that's crap. Look, can you see here? Look, that the trousers aren't filled in properly. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay it back down and give that little area, which I can see, an extra burnish. I'm slightly anxious that because this is the first ink up, what printmakers generally do is they have something called a run-in, where they'll print one or two off first, just to get the block used to the just to get it fully inked up. And that's what will need to happen here. There's areas here that aren't properly printed, and that's to do with a lack of ink. So I'm going to have this one as a write-off right now, but then make sure that in the second one that it's inked up more heavily. Still not a bad impression, COVID barbers in Oxford. Everybody wearing masks. The times we live in. Next time I print this up, I'll pay special attention to areas that are very dark, like here and here, and make sure they get an extra burnish. Okay? Get yourself a nipping press. They're fantastic things. They're inexpensive compared to other presses. Most of them have been around for 150 years at least. So they're robust and very faithful to you. And give them a name and treat them with respect and love. Okay, signing off from Black Pig Print Making Studios. Bye.